We are obsessed with the massive, earth-shattering event. We convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. But this obsession entirely blinds us to the actual mechanics of how change occurs. The trajectory of human output is almost never determined by singular, defining moments. It is driven by the quiet, mathematical compounding of microscopic daily routines. The outcomes we easily observe in others are entirely backwards-looking. They are simply lagging indicators of invisible daily habits. Your financial net worth is a lagging measure of your daily spending habits. Your physical weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. This makes an atomic habit an irreducible regular practice. It is the absolute smallest structural building block of a much larger behavioral system. If you want to accurately predict an individual's future success or failure, you must completely ignore their current results and instead calculate the trajectory of their current daily choices. The math behind this trajectory works exactly like finance. Habits act as the compound interest of self-improvement, multiplying their impact as they are repeated over time. This chart maps the baseline structure of behavioral compounding. Looking at the x-axis for time and the y-axis for results, we find a dashed horizontal baseline representing exactly zero improvement over a given period. If you get 1% worse every day, you chart a steady decay curve. It slowly grinds downward, compounding poor decisions and minor excuses until you decline to nearly zero. But apply the exact same mathematical formula in the opposite direction. If you get 1% better each day for 1 year, the resulting exponential growth multiplier puts you nearly 38 times higher than where you started. On any single day, studying for 1 hour or eating poorly feels statistically insignificant. But when you project those actions across months and years, the compounding effect creates a staggering gap between the top of the growth curve and the bottom of the decay curve. Think of a pilot leaving Los Angeles for New York. If the pilot adjusts the airplane's heading just 3.5 degrees south at takeoff, the nose of the plane moves barely a few feet. But magnified across the entire United States, that plane lands in Washington, D.C. instead. Time magnifies the margin between success and failure. Small daily errors compound into toxic outcomes, just as reliably as small daily wins compound into elite performance. The mathematics of compounding are rigid and reliable. So why do so many highly motivated individuals abandon their positive routines after just a few weeks? The error lies in how our brains expect progress to function. When we apply effort, we inherently expect our results to arrive in a predictable manner, mapped as a straight, upward-sloping line. The reality of a compounding process is deeply counterintuitive. The true outcomes are heavily delayed, moving along a slow, sweeping exponential curve that stays flat before rising. This creates a massive geometric gap between what we expect to happen and what is actually happening. This gap is the valley of disappointment. It is the zone where you have been running every day for a month with no visible change to your body, and your effort feels completely wasted. To understand the physics of this valley, imagine a completely solid ice cube sitting in a room that is 25 degrees. You heat the room to 26, 27, 28 degrees. Nothing happens. You hit 31 degrees and the ice remains solid.
Then, at exactly 32 degrees, a single 1-degree shift forces the ice to rapidly fracture and liquefy. The thermal energy applied from 25 to 31 degrees was not wasted. That energy was simply being stored as potential energy until the environment reached a critical threshold. Human behavior operates on the exact same thermodynamic principle. Habits appear to make absolutely zero difference until you cross a critical threshold, what is defined as the plateau of latent potential. Society entirely misunderstands how success works. When someone breaks through that plateau, the outside world labels them an overnight success. They see only the sudden, visible release of energy, completely blind to the months of stored latent potential that made the breakthrough physically possible. When people get stuck in that valley of disappointment, the standard professional advice is to survive the plateau by setting highly specific, aggressive goals. But there is a mechanical distinction between two very different approaches here. Goals focus entirely on the desired results. Systems focus entirely on the operational processes that lead to those results. Goal setting suffers from a severe case of survivorship bias. We look at an Olympic gold medalist or a higher job candidate and assume their ambitious goal drove their success, completely ignoring the hundreds of athletes or applicants who had the exact same objective. If the winners and the losers of a specific arena share the exact same goal, the goal itself cannot be the variable that dictates success. The true variable is the underlying system they execute. Second, achieving a goal provides only a momentary change. If you summon a burst of motivation to clean a messy room, you have a clean room for exactly one day. If you maintain the sloppy habits that cause the mess, the clutter regenerates. You treated a symptom while completely ignoring the structural cause. Third, goals restrict your happiness. They create a brittle, binary failure state. Either you achieve the objective and succeed, or you fall short and fail. Satisfaction is constantly delayed until the next milestone is crossed. Finally, goals create a severe yo-yo effect. Runners will train rigorously for months, but the day after they cross the marathon finish line, they stop running. When all of your hard work is tethered to a specific finish line, the motivation instantly evaporates the moment the goal is achieved. Goals are structurally incapable of sustaining long-term progress. They are useful for setting an initial compass direction, but terrible for actually driving the vehicle. To escape this cycle, you must shift your framework. True long-term thinking is completely goalless thinking. The ultimate objective is not to win the game once. It is to construct an operational loop that allows you to continually play the game with endless, sustainable refinement. If you are currently struggling to build a new routine or break an old one, the friction you are experiencing is not a failure of your personal willpower. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you lack the desire to change, but because the underlying architecture of your behavioral system is designed incorrectly. Achieving elite levels of continuous output requires you to stop obsessing over the final output and start engineering the microscopic inputs of your daily routine. There is a definitive rule regarding human ambition. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Fix the systemic inputs, and the lagging indicators will inevitably fix themselves.